Good evening, everyone. My name's Desley Watt. I'm the Manager of Assessment and Selection here at the College. I'm joined this evening by Marianne Houghton and Natalie Worsley, who are, Marianne is the Director of the General Manager of Education, and Natalie is the Project Controller for the Computer-Based Testing Project. We'd like to thank you all for taking the time out from your schedules to come along and join us this evening. And just want to remind you that throughout the webinar, your audio and your camera have been disabled. You can type questions in. There is a Q&A box on your screen, so please feel free to type your questions in throughout the presentation, and when we get to the question and answer section at the end, we will answer your questions.
Thank you, Desley. The college is going through a period of educational renewal at the moment. Part of the changes include improvements to exam processes. The introduction of computer-based testing for the 2018 Divisional Written Examination was carefully considered as part of this educational renewal program. Now, the purpose of the written exam is to test a trainee's knowledge in either adult internal medicine or pediatrics and child health at the end of their basic training to determine whether they're ready to progress to advanced training. The examination for both adult internal medicine and pediatrics and child health is divided into two sections: clinical applications and medical sciences. These sections assess areas of knowledge which include medicine and therapeutic practice, clinical investigation results, medical principles, and basic science. Now, the majority of you are intending to sit the examination later on this month, and we appreciate that you are familiar with the structure of the exam. We want to emphasize that the content and the structure of the exam remains unchanged. The introduction of computer-based testing only changes the delivery format of the examination. There were a number of factors which led to the decision for us to move to computer-based testing from paper-based format. Annual candidate numbers are now over 1,000 candidates, and they are continuing to rise. Delivering a paper-based exam on the same day to such a large number of candidates is unsustainable. The paper-based delivery format also carries a number of risks. Printing and distribution of paper exams across Australia and New Zealand carries a significant risk of loss or damage of the papers. Similarly, the use of answer sheets carries the risk of candidates' answers being unreadable. So moving to computer-based testing, we have the benefits of increased accuracy and efficiency for scoring the tests and reporting feedback. There is no scope for these answer sheets to be misread with the computer-based solution. In addition to the enhanced security that we will have, there's also opportunity for enhanced analysis of exam results, because we will be receiving much richer data following the exam delivery, which will provide us useful insight to exam performance and how we can develop future exams. Candidates also have a lot more flexibility to complete the exam at their own pace. Each candidate will have their own exam timer with their exam. So once a candidate completes a section of the exam, they can progress as soon as they like to the next one. It's worth bearing in mind that if you do not use all the time for one section, this will not roll over. So if you use 2 hours for the 3 allocated for clinical applications, you will not get an extra hour for your medical sciences section.
A lot of people have asked us why we're working together with Pearson VUE for the delivery of our new computer-based exams. When we were looking at transitioning to computer-based delivery, the college looked at a number of prospective providers. Pearson VUE was selected because they have over 20 years international best practice experience in delivering computer-based testing across both medical and business fields. Their extensive experience includes delivering exams for the AMC for their registration exams, for the American Board of Internal Medicine and the Federation of the Royal College of Physicians of the UK for their certification exams. Additionally, Pearson VUE have access to the largest network of computer-based test centres, and this allowed us to provide candidates with access to computer-based testing close to home or close to work. so people didn't have to travel to get to an exam. In order to meet the best practice standards that have been set by Pearson VUE and to ensure the secure and successful delivery of our exam, there's a number of new processes that have been introduced that you'll experience, or all candidates will experience, on exam day. Natalie, would you like to run us through some of those?
Yeah, so you will probably notice a few differences when you arrive for your computer-based exam compared to some experiences that you've had for paper-based exam delivery in the past. There are comprehensive security checks that are in place to ensure the secure delivery of the exam. So on exam day, all candidates will be presented with the Pearson VUE candidate rules. You will be photographed, required to present valid ID and a digital signature when you arrive. Some of these venues that we're using will have video and audio monitoring as part of their security measures. Candidates will be advised in the candidate rules whether they may be subject to video and audio monitoring. Before being admitted to a testing room, an administrator will ensure that you only have permitted items in your possession. You may be subject to checks which involve displaying your pockets, rolling up your sleeves, and having your glasses checked where applicable. This will happen every time you enter the test room. We recommend that you allow enough time to complete the check-in and security checks before the scheduled time of your exam. As we previously discussed, the exam is divided into two sections: clinical applications and medical sciences. There is an allocated 60-minute break, the scheduled break, between the two sections, which will start as soon as you complete the clinical applications section. You must raise your hand to signal to the test administrator that you have completed that section, and they will secure your computer before you leave the test room. How much time you use of the 60 minutes is at your discretion, but we do recommend that you take at least 30 minutes between the two sections. You should be aware that if you don't return to your workstation at the 60-minute mark, the timer for the final section of the exam, medical sciences, will start. During your scheduled break, you will have access to your personal belongings, and you will need to go through your security checks again when you re-enter the test area. So please make sure that you allow enough time for this. You may find that during the exam, you might need to take an unscheduled break, such as going to the toilet. You would need to raise your hand to signal to the test administrator that you need to take an unscheduled break, and they will secure your computer for you. You won't be able to access your personal items during an unscheduled break. You should also be aware that your exam timer will continue to tick over during the time that you are away from the workstation. And when you re-enter the test area, you will need to go through the security checks again. So that really covers off the features of the exam processes. Now we want to talk about the look and feel of the actual exam. So first off, we have developed a sample exam for all trainees who are eligible to sit the 2018 Divisional Written Exam. This was launched in August, and all trainees will have unlimited access to this sample exam up until the day before the exam. Now, we built the sample exam to mirror the actual exam. So there are medical sciences and clinical application questions, and they also are questions of the two question formats that we use for the exam. So that's multiple choice questions and extended matching questions. The sample exam is half the length of the actual exam. So the sample exam is 6 hours. That's the amount of time that you have to review the features, the delivery format of computer-based sample exam. But if you wish to complete the exam under time conditions, we recommend that you allow half the time that you have available for the actual exam, which is just over 3 hours. And so another feature which we have in the sample exam is an opportunity to review which questions you have gotten incorrect or correct. It's not an assessed exam, and it's only the sample exam which will have this feature, but it was a way in which we thought you would be able to get a benefit of being able to use the sample exam prior to sitting the actual exam on the 19th. Another difference is that the sample exam is an online platform. That's where it's delivered, whereas the actual exam is delivered via secure servers on a desktop. Some trainees may find that the time loading questions is contingent on internet speed. This will not be the case for the actual exam. For trainees who are unable to complete the sample exam prior to the actual exam, you will not be disadvantaged. At the beginning of the exam, you will have 7 minutes to go through a tutorial, which will talk you through the key features and functions of the computer-based delivery format. Whilst this is timed, this time is separate from the time which is allowed to review and answer the exam questions for clinical applications and medical sciences. So one of the key features which we have included in the sample exam and in the actual exam is strike through and highlight. We understand that part of the exam technique is to be able to highlight key information and have the ability to cross out any information that you don't want to focus on. So there are 5 colors available for highlighting, and as you can see on the image shown on the screen, you will be able to use multiple colors on the same question. You can use colors for highlighting and strike through on the question stem, on the answer options, but also on any table which has been built into the exam. Now, highlighting and strike through is not available on any images of tables or any images at all. Now, the highlighter and strike through remains on screen unless you remove it. Even if you navigate away from the page, the highlight and strike through will remain when you return. With regards to navigation, there are a number of options that you have available to you in the exam. You can press previous and next to go through the exam sequentially. There is also a navigator button which brings up a navigation pane which lists all of the questions. You will be able to review the status of each question, whether it has been completed, whether it is incomplete, or whether it is unseen. And you can also see if you have any questions which you have flagged for review. You can also navigate to specific questions by clicking on the question number. Finally, we understand from trainees that note-taking forms part of your exam technique, so we're able to support this in 2 ways. The first way is the whiteboard, and as you can see from the image attached, this is not a clunky beveled tablet, but rather it is a laminated paper. All of the trainees completing the exam this year will be provided with a whiteboard booklet that contains 9 writable surfaces. You will also be given a black fine-tipped pen to write with, so this is easier to write with than a whiteboard marker. Additionally, there is a digital notepad which is built into the exam, which is referred to as a scratch pad. You will have 1 scratch pad for each section of the exam, so 1 for medical sciences and 1 for clinical applications. If you want to make a note for any particular question, we do recommend that you make a note of the question number, as it's only the 1 scratch pad that you have for the entire section. It's a free text box, so you can type in letters, numbers, and symbols. You should be aware, however, that you cannot copy and paste either the question stem or the answer options and paste that into the scratch pad. Finally, when you review your last question and click next, you will be presented with a review screen. Similar to the navigation pane, the review screen lists all of the questions in the exam, and there is a description of questions which have been, which are not complete or which have been unseen. You also can see which questions you have flagged for review. Now, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner that you have a number of options in terms of reviewing your exam. You can review all of the questions. You can review just the incomplete questions, which would include the unseen questions. And you can also review the flagged questions. You can also navigate to questions specifically by clicking on the question number. When you click End Review, that will end the section that you are on. So for clinical applications, that will end that section and will start your scheduled break. For medical sciences, that will end the exam overall. we are very interested in hearing how you have experienced computer-based testing. So after the exam, we will be sending out a survey. This will be your opportunity to provide your feedback on your exam experience.
Great. Thank you, Natalie, for that really comprehensive review of the process. I hope everyone's starting to feel really excited about it. On the flip side, we're very aware that exams in general can create a lot of stress for people, and particularly aware that when there's a change to what people have been expecting over time, that can make the experience a little bit more stressful and perhaps make you feel a little bit uneasy about how you're going to go through the whole exam process. Given that we understand that there is a risk of increased anxiety, that some people will be feeling nervous, for a lot of you, this whole computer-based testing experience will be your first time using computer-based testing, and it's such a high-stakes exam for you that we wanted to point out to you, we've got a number of links here, and these will be available in the recorded webinar when it goes onto the website, and also you can start exploring for these on our website. They're currently available for you. What we're doing is recommending that anyone who's feeling stressed or anxious about their exam, go and have a look at our physician health and wellbeing section on the website. This page hosts some useful guidance on how to manage stress, how to deal with anxiety, and it also provides further information about the support services available through the college. We'd encourage anyone who has any concerns about how they're feeling about coming up to their exam to go and have a look at these resources and to contact us or to talk to your supervisor or to some of your peers. Make sure that you're seeking the support that you need to get you through. And in terms of your exam preparation, if you go onto our website and have a look at the Divisional Written Exam webpage, there's a lot of information there that can answer pretty much all of the questions I think you have. Additionally, there's links to the instructions to candidates and also some frequently asked questions. And there's a sample exam webpage on our site that gives you the link to go to the sample exam, which Natalie spoke about earlier. And it also takes you to a page of information regarding the sample exam. So again, we're encouraging everybody to go on, have a look at that sample exam and make sure that you're feeling comfortable with how you'll be able to work in the test environment. I'm sure that everyone will find that it has been looked at, it has been monitored to make sure it's user-friendly and intuitive, and it certainly won't cause any issues for you in terms of how you navigate through it. Look, that's really the end of our formal presentation. So go into a bit of the informal session now. I can see we've got a couple of questions coming up from people, and that's great. Just a reminder that we haven't enabled microphones. So if you've got a question, please type it in through the Q&A function, and we'll start answering those for you now.
Hello, you can see us all. So the first question that we've received is in relation to the sample exam and whether it's possible to flag that for the trainees' attention. Now, we have recently republished the sample exam to include the strike through and highlight features, and we notified via Facebook that the sample exam has been republished. That has seen an uptake of trainees review the sample exam. But if you have any concerns with trainees not being aware of the sample exam or no longer being able to access it, please do contact us.
Access to water during the exam. Okay, so we've had a number of queries from candidates over the last few months regarding access to water. We did send out some information recently to candidates regarding how you can ensure that you can have access to water. Keeping in mind that this is a computer-based test centre that the exam will be conducted in, there are policies in place regarding access to water at your desk. However, a large number of test centres have water available, are able to provide facilities for you to put your own water bottle in. And also we did send an email not too long ago advising that if you were looking to have access to water, please contact us so that we can ensure that your test centre will have that available. So again, if you haven't contacted us, please get in touch shortly.
We have received some questions via email as well, so unfortunately some of you won't be able to see this. It has been pointed out that on the sample exam it's easy for an answer to accidentally been changed, and whether there's any mechanism in place to alert the candidate that on review the previous selection option has been changed, whether it was intentional or not. Now, we did have some feedback when we were reviewing the sample exam that the area in which you could select an answer was quite broad, so you could click anywhere on the screen and it might change your answer. So what we have done for the actual exam is that we have narrowed that down, so it's only if you click that specific radio button that that answer will be selected. Similarly, it's also important to point out that you can select an answer by using the keyboard, so you can type A, B, C, or D to ensure that that's the answer that you wish to be selected. There are a number of different contingency plans that we have in place in case of a computer failure or power outage. That has been worked through in partnership between the college and Pearson VUE. So that is something that we have considered, and if there is any issue, rest assured that that will be handled swiftly.
All right, so we've got some questions here about the working sheets and the markers. I think that there is one marker per desk provided, but keeping in mind that these test centres, their business is running these computer-based exams. So they will have additional markers, they will have additional sheets. If anything breaks or wears out or runs out, they will have a supply of those available. You'll just have to raise your hand and a test administrator will be there to assist you. In terms of rubbing out the writing on the sheets, I believe that something will be provided. I think there's a little rubber that is provided, and if not, then you are given 9 sheets to write on, so I'm certain there will be adequate room there. Again, put your hand up for a test administrator if you're concerned about anything. That's what their job is, to look after you at your exam. We've got a query here also regarding, will a formula sheet be available?
There is no extra collateral which is provided to you other than the whiteboard and the pen. All of the rest of the exam information will be on your computer and in your workstation, so there are no handouts that you should be expecting. In terms of this setup for the computer-based testing, you will be provided with a computer, a keyboard, and a mouse. In terms of the size of the monitor, there are 2 options. It'll either be a 17-inch screen or a 24-inch screen. The exam has been built to be suitable for both of those sizes.
And we've got another question here with someone noting that one of the unallowed items in the test centre is a watch. So this is a timed exam, we do know, but there is a timer on the screen for you that will count down the time as you go through your exam. You won't need a watch, so if you don't have one, you won't be needing it. You can count down the time. Also, keeping in mind that if anything does happen in the test environment, so that if something were to happen in your exam that the test would pause, the timer there is actually the one that would be relied upon for your end time for your exam, because that would be monitored and to ensure that you've got the full amount of time for your test.
We also need to bear in mind that with the advancement of technology means that the Apple Watch is in existence, and so the rule regarding the watch is also one in relation to security. Finally, we have another question here in relation to the start time. So the question says, instructions suggest that you can enter the exam room anywhere between 9 and 9:30 a.m. And after agreeing to the terms of the exam and you click next, the time automatically starts. Does this mean that people will be starting and finishing the exam at different times? Yes, that is the case. As we highlighted earlier, everybody has their own individual exam timer, so you have a set amount of time to agree to the exam conditions and to review the tutorial before you commence the first section of clinical applications. You do that at your own pace, and when you have completed it, or if you run out of time, that will end that section, and then you exit the exam room for your scheduled break. So people will not be starting and finishing at the same time. It will be dependent on your own pace.
And we've got a question here asking if you can bring nuts and sweets or other food into the test room. There is no food permitted at the desk unless you have actually contacted us to request special accommodation. So if you have a medical condition where you will be needing to have access to food during your exam, please make sure that you contact us as soon as possible so we can advise test centres and get arrangements in place. But any food that you try to bring in you'll need to put that in with your personal belongings in a locker prior to going into the test room.
There's also a question in relation to a Zoom feature for pictures, x-rays, and ECGs. There is no Zoom feature specific to the images that are presented in the exam. However, there will be a functionality for you to set your own Zoom feature for the entire exam. Now, we have ensured that the quality of the images are appropriate for you to answer the question. So we are confident that you will not have any issues with reviewing the images for the exam.
And we've got another question here regarding the number of trainees that will be in the room. Someone's pointing out that it seems there'll be some movement in and out of the room. Yes, there will. We don't know how many trainees will actually be in each room because it depends on the size of the test centre. Some test centres hold 10 to 15, others hold maybe 3 to 5. So it will depend on the location and also on the actual test centre that you're in, how many people will be in the room. And as Natalie mentioned, people will be starting at the times that they arrive. So your exam will run for your 3 hours, someone else's will run for their 3 hours. So very similarly though to if you were sitting in a paper-based exam where people who would finish earlier would be leaving the room throughout that, and people who arrived a few minutes late would be walking in when you were already sitting there started.
In relation to that, we've had a question regarding headphones. Headphones are not provided. You will see, however, from the Pearson VUE comfort list that earplugs are permitted. So you may bring earplugs into the testing area. We recommend that you bring disposable earplugs that are in clear packaging because they will need to be inspected by the test administrator. So that could be a way for you to ensure that you are focused.
All right, great. Well, I think we appear to have answered all of the questions that have been sent through at this point in time. If anyone would like to put through another question, we've got a couple more minutes here. And again, we'd like to thank you for taking the time out to join us and showing your interest in learning more about the computer-based testing that we're so excited to be moving to. I'd like to thank both Marianne and Natalie for staying back this evening to assist with delivering the webinar for everyone.
A pleasure.
And how many test centres are there?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's going to be the quick answer to that. We have worked with Pearson VUE to ensure that there are a number of test centres available, particularly in some of the high population areas. So trainees who are based in Melbourne and Sydney, for example, will know that there are a number of test centres that are available within their city. But in terms of the test centre locations, they have remained the same that we have had provided in previous years.
And we've just had another query regarding the break between the two sessions. We do allocate up to 60 minutes break between the two exams. In terms of is there a minimum break, we haven't specified a minimum break. However, what we would recommend is that you take care of yourself during your exam day. Make sure that between exams you have time to have something to eat, have a rest stop, and give yourself a little bit of rest time because you want to be fully focused when you go back in for the second exam. We are recommending that you take a minimum of 30 minutes to ensure that you're refreshed in time for the second exam.
In terms of how long before the medical science exam that you can enter the exam room, again, that's at your own discretion. So we recommend that you take a suitable break, but there is an option for you to carry straight through to the medical sciences paper. Your workstation is your workstation for both the clinical application section and the medical sciences section. You do not have to change workstation. So as soon as you decide to return to your workstation, you will be able to return and commence your medical sciences paper.
And in terms of how to access a copy of this webinar for viewing later, we'll be posting a link through the website, and that will be within a week. So that we want to make sure that we have all of the technology working well to have the webinar available to you on our website. And that we've been able to also capture the questions that you've asked this evening and put them into an FAQ document so that you can all review those.
Yeah, we were advised by one of you that many trainees may have turned off social media notifications during this intense study period. So we will be emailing trainees to advise them that the webinar is available, at which point we will also be reminding trainees of the sample exam and provide them with a reminder as to how they can access the sample exam.
All right, well, again, thank you all very much. It appears that we've answered all the questions. If you do have questions following this, please do feel free to contact us at examinations@racp.edu.au, and we'll ensure that we get back to you. And keep an eye out for that email regarding where the link is for the webinar. And do again, please tell all of those other trainees that you are speaking to and in contact with about the webinar, and that will be available to them, because we would really like everyone to have a look at it and to feel really confident going into their exam. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.